Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our Great Human Game series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and I'm really pleased to present to you a game played in the recent 4 NCL weekend in the match between the Sharks and Chessable White Rose, and it's a game between Tom O'Gorman and Samuel Chow. And well, I met Tom at the varsity match, in actual fact, where I do the commentary. I've done that for a number of years now, and yeah, he mentioned that he was really interested in the Crazy Leela stuff, and that he was trying it out for himself. And yeah, he wrote to me just a few days ago to say that he played a great idea against Samuel Chow that was Crazy Leela inspired. And he said he didn't mind if I showed the game, so that's what I'm doing. Really pleased to do that, because I do actually know of a number of opening ideas, good ones, that have been inspired by Crazy Leela, but I've normally been told about them in confidence. So people somehow don't want other people to know about Crazy Leela, and they don't want people to discover, you know, the riches that that it has to offer. But Tom doesn't mind, so I can show you this game. Very interesting opening, actually, so let's go through it. So it's e4, e6, d4, d5, knight c3, bishop b4, French Winawer, c5, a3, takes, knight e7, and now the move h4. And this has more or less always been the favourite of neural nets. There were quite a few AlphaZero Stockfish games with this line, h4. AlphaZero scored pretty well with it. Yeah, Leela's also very keen on it as well. More keen on this system than on the poison pawn lines with Queen G4. Although AlphaZero also found a very interesting line in there that was later used by Jordan van Foreest to win a really important game. There's a video on that on the Game Changer website, if you or Game Changer YouTube site, if you want to see it. But Queen C7 played, h5, h6, and then rook b1. And now black's got a number of possibilities. There were a lot of AlphaZero Stockfish games with the move b6, queen g4, rook g8, bishop b5 check, king f8, bishop d3, bishop a6. It all looks so utterly horrible, doesn't it, for black? But it's a French Winawer, you know, and that's how these things look. Actually, this was played by, the black side was played by Jan Nepomniachtchi against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave in the COVID-interrupted candidates match. And this was the last round before the tournament was stopped. And it's, yeah, Jan lost to Maxime, and then had something like half a year to get over that loss and recover for the next rounds, which, of course, he did very well. But yeah, I mean, Maxime won very convincingly. Stockfish 8 actually managed to hold a lot of these games against AlphaZero, but it was, you know, obviously pretty nice for White. I mean, White plays knight e2, castles, gets the bishop active somehow, and yeah, the king, the rook, they're just not really that great. I mean, black's got some nice light squares, and he can kind of entrench his knights onto squares, but I do feel that it's machine playable, but just not really human playable. And yeah, Jan really just suffered, you know, an awful lot, and lost quite a bad game there. What Samuel played was move knight bc6. It was also played in between AlphaZero and Stockfish as well, but less frequently. So Queen G4 played, rook G8, and now a very sharp line, bishop D3, and then black plays the move C4. So yeah, this is always a very double-edged decision from black to play the move c4, because after all, you're releasing the tension on the white center, and also, you know, you might want to try and exploit this square, this lovely square in front of the double pawns, for a piece, you know, with knight a5 to c4, for example. So by c4, you're stopping that. But, you know, if white just retreats, then black does gain a fair amount of time. And yeah, I mean, maybe this whole Queen G4 stuff doesn't really make that much sense. I mean, in general, white would probably want to start moving the kingside pawns forward, right, if the centre's closed. And with the queen in the way, that's not really possible. I mean, actually, Stockfish came up with a quite amazing idea here. Bishop d7, rook b7, just castles. rook b1, then g5. So, and actually black's idea is just to try and use this open b file for himself. He's going to go king d8, king c7, rook b8, and yeah, the white major pieces are really out of the way. And black's also got stuff like f5, and if ef, then e5. Opening up the lines. It can get very, very active for black. So what white does is play the move bishop h7, which looks incredibly strong. Hitting the rook on g8, and obviously if the rook moves, then queen takes g7. But black can play the move knight takes e5. And yeah, this is a rather clever idea. The point is that after d takes e5, queen takes e5 check, defends the g7 pawn with tempo. And yeah, if you were to do something like knight e2, say, then after rook h8, the bishop is trapped. Black's 2 pawns up, threatening to win this bishop. If you move the bishop back to d3, black can just take it and just be a pawn up. So that's the big idea. Now, against Stockfish 8, AlphaZero played the move queen g3. And this is where it sort of gets interesting. Stockfish played the move knight f3 check. King h8, rook h8. But this, yeah, was very interesting position. But Stockfish and AlphaZero rather ended up sacrificing multiple pawns after bishop g6 takes bishop f4, queen a5, knight e2. Stockfish ended up sacrificing the a3 pawn and playing against the king side and won quite a nice game in actual fact. But what the black players have tended to do is to play the move knight d3 check. C takes d3, queen takes, and rook h8. And yeah, I mean, this has been turning out pretty good. I mean, white's tried several things. D takes c4, rook h7, or bishop e4, takes. But after b6 and bishop b7, black's basically fine. I mean, material's equal. White's got a little bit more space, but plenty of light squares to attack, really. Nothing really to worry about at all. So I guess this is what Samuel was aiming for. It's quite mainline theory nowadays. But yeah, Tom had put this on to Crazy Leela. And Crazy Leela, as is its wont, came up with an idea simply that sacrifices a couple of pawns for lots of compensation. And it turns out to be really, really difficult for black to deal with. Maybe not if you're Stockfish or Torch, but if you're a human player, then I think it's just very, very unpleasant. So Leela's idea is to take, queen takes c5, knight e2, rook h8, and now this had been played once in Title Tuesday, but that's not at all Leela's idea. Leela's idea is just to go castles, and this is a novelty, and I think a really very important one as well. Rook takes h7, and now knight d4. So first of all, what does white have in terms of compensation, and what is Leela's idea? What is the difference between this and the previous human line single game in a Title Tuesday blitz match? So it could well be as well that white just didn't know the theory somehow, yeah, was just making it up as he went along. Well, first of all, I mean, what's a slight problem for black's position? Well, I mean, first of all, the rook is on h7. That's not great. And secondly, the rook has moved, so black can no longer castle kingside. And also, with the rook already attacking the b7 pawn, castling queenside not so easy. Then we've got the queen that's somewhat exposed in the centre, so got to watch out for a future bishop f4 anyway, and maybe also a rook coming to the e file at some stage. But that just sort of feels a little bit nebulous, doesn't it? Really, you sort of think, well, I mean, 2 pawns up, surely you can do something, but there's something that's of course, in the French Winawer, right? I mean, that the dark squares are weak because black on the 5th move already is exchanging off the dark squared bishop. It doesn't look that bad so far, but what the Crazy Leela plan kind of is not to put the bishop on f4, but to put the bishop on a3 and come in with knight b5 and then have bishop d6 or knight d6. And this just turns out to be really, really unpleasant. And what black does in the game is very, very natural indeed. You know, black tries to put the central pawns on dark squares in order to claim some dark squares. But it just turns out that by doing that, black's light squares also get horribly weakened. And this turns out to be, just really catastrophic in actual fact. So yeah, I mean, what do the engines want? Well, the engines suggest King F8, A4, and King G8, putting the king to safety in this way. And yeah, you know, they're claiming equality in these positions. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not really, you know, it's not really so obvious somehow, right? Because I mean, you've got the king on g8, rook on h7. This rook's going to be out of play for ages, and white can play stuff, you know, bishop a3, f4, or even try bishop f4 and you know, put a bishop on e5 later. You know, the engines will be able to draw it. Whether a human will be able to is another question. You know, it's really a position which is very tricky to handle indeed for black. What Samuel did was very natural, actually. He played the move queen b8. So the queen's retreating. It doesn't want to go to d6 or to c7 because it'll get hit by knight b5. So the queen's going to b8, and black's intending to play the move e5 there. But yeah, it's not that obvious somehow, because Tom played the move rook e1 here. And yeah, I mean, rook e1, we've still got our ideas of going a4. We've also got some ideas coming in of bishop f4, and the queen on b8 is trapped. And this is actually rather significant, because after e5, black opens the attack on the queen on g4, and white plays queen g3. And you know, after queen b8, the engines are saying that it's 0.78 for white already. After the move e5, queen g3, the engines are claiming 3.63. Can you imagine? Two unbelievably natural moves, perhaps the first moves as a human player that you'd really look at and say, yeah, I think I've got to do this. And it's absolute disaster already. I mean, that is kind of the power of these Crazy Leela ideas, right? They have such a lot of dynamism in them that you know, it's I mean, they can just destroy you, right? If a black player doesn't know them. And I mean, I have to say that Tom played it really beautifully as well. The whole rest of the game from here on, and I don't know until when his preparation actually was, but he really played it, you know, just I think as Leela had intended, basically. So what's the problem with e takes d4? It's very simple, just bishop f4 and the queen is trapped. So easy, so simple there. So black played the move f6, which apparently is already another mistake. According to the engines, they want the move g5, which, I mean, I think we're getting into totally bananas territory, and human will never ever find this territory, right? I mean, it's simply like that. But f6, very natural idea here. You'll notice one big problem, though, is that the g6 square becomes open, and well, the rook can't move because it's got to defend g7, but yeah, this knight can't move either because queen g6 check will pick up the rook. And of course, queen g6 is just a very unpleasant move anyway in the future once this knight moves. And what Tom does, he plays the move a4 here. And the idea of that is super thematic, is to go bishop a3, and that gives white either the possibility of knight b5 with threats of bishop d6, trapping the queen again, or knight d6. But also, when the bishop goes to a3, you can take the knight on e7 and follow up with queen g6, and well, either you're going to lose the rook, or if you move it back, then g7 will be hanging. I mean, it's a really powerful move, and you know, the engines give it 2.47 for white, so it's a really good move. Funnily enough, there is something even more powerful, which Stockfish points out, Stockfish and Torch, which is to play the move bishop f4. And what's the idea of that? Well, a couple of ideas. Of course, e takes f4, first of all, queen g6 check. You're pinned, so we're just going to pick up the rook. The second threat that you've got is rook takes c5, because after f takes c5, bishop takes c5, the queen on b8 is trapped again. So you go bishop d7, and now there's the really good move, which, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's a tricky one for a human player to find. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'd be particularly finding this move, to be honest. It's the move knight f3. The idea, of course, is that e takes f4, queen g6 is still a win. And the idea is that if you do something like king f7, for example, I'm going to take on e5 like this. F takes e5, for example, knight takes e5, knight takes d7. And, well, you've got this double attack on here and here, basically. So, you know, this is just very, very powerful for white. And, of course, you know, the big problem in all this is that you've got this horrible rook on h7, which is totally out of play. You know, you won't be able to go g5 because knight f6 would fork the king and rook. So, you know, this is a very long-term problem for black. I mean, to be honest, it's the sort of thing that you were seeing in AlphaZero Stockfish games all the time. You know, somehow black managing to defend and hold stuff, but getting the pieces hopefully caught, you know, hopelessly caught. Either a queen caught in the corner, or very often a rook like this as well. So, I mean, bishop f4 was even stronger, but a4 is really good as well. King f7 played by Samuel, and now bishop a3. And we're just aiming for bishop a3 and queen g6. Now, queen c7 was played by Samuel, and now a very strong idea, f4. Very thematic as well. You know, you can't take on here, of course, because of rook takes e7 check. Same thing, e takes f4. I've got rook e7, and then this lovely move, queen g6, which really is just winning the whole house because the queen's en prise, of course, as well. So black plays the move e4, trying to keep stuff together. And, you know, you sort of think, oh, you know, are you going to be able to survive that? Have you managed to block things in? But that's not the case, unfortunately. Bishop takes c7 already is quite strong. Stockfish and Torch were doing this as well, but Tom plays a very natural move, knight b5, and it's really strong too. Samuel played queen d7. Queen b6 might be just a little bit stronger, but I mean, it's not making that much difference. Bishop takes c7, and this is the surprising move now. It's a really nice move from Tom, I have to say, and the point is absolutely gorgeous. Sometimes, you know, very hard to visualize moves like this because you you know, you've got your dark square bishop, you're seeing those invasion squares, and the idea of swapping it off for a knight just wouldn't occur to you. But the tactic that Tom finds is gorgeous. Maybe not unbelievably difficult once you see it, but very, very easy to miss. He takes on e7, queen takes e7. I mean, king e7, we just go, oh yeah, this move f5 here. If you go queen g6, we've got queen f5, which is quite nice. But we play the move f5 here, and we're just threatening knight c7. And if rook b8, then, you know, we can move away somewhere or take on d5 and take on b8. It's a really strong idea. So queen takes e7 played by Sam, and then queen g6 check, king g8 only move, got to defend the rook. And maybe you want to pause the video here and see the great move that Tom found, because I thought it was gorgeous when I saw it. It was really, really nice. So the move knight c7, threatening the rook on a8, threatening the pawn on d5, and queen c7, you've got queen e8 check. And such a lovely tactic there, making use of the fact that the rook is, you know, just getting in the way of the king's escape square. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a tactic that you find back in lots of tactical puzzle books. So yeah, I mean, you've got to do something about this, right? You can't just let white win the rook on a8. So Samuel played the move bishop f5, which is quite natural, but then takes. Gave a little check on c5 first, king h1, all of them are possible. King f1 was possible as well. Queen takes d5 check, queen f7, and now we just take and go rook b7, and the pawns are just dropping like flies. Rook takes e4. Now there's all sorts of ways to win this, but I thought what Tom did was very sensible. I mean, just take all the pawns and keep a rook on b7, just keeping this rook, you know, passive. I mean, either it has to move away and give the g7 pawn away, or it just stays out of play forever. I mean, it's a more beautiful demonstration of the power of what this initial Crazy Leela idea was, or what it was based on. A rook passive in the corner there, the weak dark squares, the white's lead in development. Yeah, I mean, it's a really beautiful illustration of that. So a6, king h2, king g4, rook c5 played. Just keeping control of the h5 pawn. It's the best pawn to keep a hold of. Black played rook d8, tried to get the rook active, but then Tom went for the a pawn and went back to a7 just to keep the rook on h7 passive, and then just started pushing the a pawn. And there's all sorts of ways of winning it, but what Tom did was never ever in doubt here. Rook f8, just getting behind the f pawn. Rook c2, rook e7. And now the a6 pawn is coming through. And yeah, the way these rooks are arranged is really nice. The rook stopping the f pawn from moving forward. This rook stopping this rook from getting free. This rook also stopping this rook from getting free forever. And now the a pawn is being shepherded home. So rook check, king there, king g3, a7, rook c5. A last desperate attempt for mate on c1. But after king f1, black resigned because the king is safe and a8 queen is happening. I thought that was a gorgeous game. Really, really beautiful. I mean, the opening idea, Crazy Leela inspired, is really nice. Really, pleased to hear about this one. Just castles, giving away 2 pawns for dark square play, lead in development, misplaced black pieces, including the rook on h7 particularly, and a king in the centre. But I thought that Tom played it absolutely beautifully afterwards. Really played it very, very thematically. And what he did never went below plus 2.5. So I mean that's really excellent play. And yeah, I mean a really beautiful game. And of course this tactical sequence. That Tom found, starting with f4 actually, and then moving on with bishop takes c7 and knight c7 is of the highest quality. Really is, really nice idea. I would have been showing all of you if I'd played a game like that. So definitely really impressive. And what I really loved about the whole thing was that this is originally an Alpha Zero line, of course, this h4, and this is just so typical somehow, of the Alpha Zero Stockfish 8 games that Alpha Zero won, where often managing to tie up a black piece in the corner and never let it escape. And fast forward to the end of the game on move 47, and that rook still hasn't moved from h7. It's a really classic victory. So well done, Tom. Thanks very much for sharing that game with me, and thanks very much as well for letting me show it to everyone. Hope you enjoyed it a lot, and yeah, just keep on watching the videos. Got lots more Crazy Leela. I've got a classic player as well that I want to share with you as well, and well, who knows, lots more stuff coming up, I think. So there we are. Do give a like and subscribe if you like this, and thanks very much for watching.